I want to teach in neutral buoyancy, but I'm just not sure how. Okay, if that's your question, this video is for you from my experience in having been in the exact same position. So I learned how to teach all of my skills on your knees. I was even taught that you should overweight your students to keep them pegged onto the ground, and you might have been taught that too. Even if you recently became an instructor, it's still a common practice. But PADI Standards Best Practices says that we should teach at least key skills neutrally buoyant, and there really are only one or two in which the person needs to be on or near the ground anyways, because it makes them a safer diver and it makes your job easier when you're guiding divers who learn all of their skills from neutral buoyancy right from the start. Okay, so maybe you've given this a try already and it didn't really work out. There's a couple of really simple points that I want to draw your attention to because you might be doing something simple that's making it harder for yourself. So let's jump into it. Number one, make sure your divers are properly weighted. I know that it's obvious, but like we just talked about, the common practice in a lot of places is to overweight your divers. And this is so prevalent that you might actually have forgotten what the appropriate amount of weight for people is. I understand that it's difficult to do a weight check in 1.5 meters for 5 feet of water for the first confined water dives. I get it. But try your best. If you weight up the person, they get in the water, deflate, and drop like a rock, maybe take a pound or two out. Start there, right? Try to do your weight check, but if you can't until you get into slightly deeper water, at least go with common sense. 2, this one also can be difficult because sometimes it's out of your control. This is to make sure that your divers' BCDs fit properly. This can be difficult if you work in a smaller dive shop with limited gear sizes or limited quantities of each size. I know at one of the dive shops I worked at, I would get there first thing in the morning before anyone else so I could pick out my gear, because otherwise I would be left fighting other instructors trying to get the size that my divers needed. But what happens if your diver's BCD is too big? They're gonna roll around. So if you get that where they're like trying to hover, but they're just kind of going side to side, it's probably because their BCD is too big. So give this a try, see if it helps. Finally, number 3, this is ease into it. Start with a fin pivot, okay? I don't need your divers to be perfectly hovering on their first 4 skills. Absolutely not. No one expects that, and I think that that is part of the confusion about why people feel like they can't start teaching neutral buoyancy until after they've taught the buoyancy skill. But we don't need them to be hovering of their own accord. So what I do is we go down, and then first thing, I give everyone a see how they land. I brief them in the boat. You might move around a bit, you might roll a little bit. I'm paying attention and I'm gonna resolve all of that for you. Just be relaxed and let the water move you the way that it's going to, because I need that data to help me figure out what problem you have with your weighting, with your BCD size, etc. But with a simple puff, you can get them into a fin pivot position. And then what this does is, even as you're demoing your skills, they're starting to feel the correlation between their breath and their buoyancy, right? Especially if you take the time to explain this before your first dive. So these are my key takeaways, guys. Let me know what other questions you have and if you would be interested in seeing a part 2 of this video. And as always, follow and subscribe for a fun and authentic approach to scuba.